Good afternoon and welcome back. I'm Marcus Peter. UK pro-life groups are hailing a great victory as an assisted suicide bill has failed. It was billed as inevitable. Most of British media made it seem as if this was coming through. But the legislation stalled in the House of Lords last week. Joanna Bogle joins us with more. Joanna is a Catholic journalist in the United Kingdom. Her book Newman's London is published by Gracewing Books. Joanna, so great to speak with you. How are you?
Great to speak with you. Well, it's a warm, sunny spring day here in London. It's been beautiful. The trees are all green and the blossoms are out. It's good.
Joanna, I want to ask if you could share with our listeners the details of this bill. What was being pushed forth and what was the intention?
The idea, Kim Ledbetter, who is a member of the House of Commons, was pushing forward this bill, a private member's bill, not a government bill, but with quite a lot of support, including the suggestion that a number in the government were supporting it. The idea is that patients who felt they were very ill and very unhappy would ask to be killed. And there were various provisions about how long they'd been suffering, how long they might have to live, what the prognosis was, and so on. It received not enough time in Parliament, in the House of Commons. It was shocking. There was far too short a time. And then it went to the upper house, to the House of Lords. Now, what happened by this time was that a great many people had put forward a number of serious amendments. The thing was full of holes. I mean, how do you say that somebody is in despair? Who is the witness to this? Is there any pressure? I mean, there's just 1,000, almost literally 1,000 things that you might wish to raise. So a great many amendments were put to this bill in their lordships' house. And the lordships were trying to cope with all of these, but each one properly put forward, seconded, and so on, has to be debated. And eventually what has happened is that this bill that was full of holes, a shockingly poor piece of legislation by any measure, fell through lack of time. Now, it wasn't a government measure, but because there was a feeling that perhaps a number in the government supported it, there's been an enormous row. And a great number of people, both pro and anti, have gathered at various points outside Parliament with banners and placards. I among them. I think this was a dreadful piece of legislation. So I rejoice that it's run out of time in the House of Lords. That is good. But the worry is, as in America, the case for euthanasia is being pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed by different people. So there is a worry that further legislation may be introduced.
We've seen how the House of Lords has capitulated to numerous progressivist legislation. The Abortion Act of 1967, abolition of capital punishment, the decriminalization of homosexuality, the introduction of same-sex quote-unquote marriage. So in some sense, I am a little surprised. But would you please give us a sense of what the populace, the common people, think about this legislation?
Well, it's tricky. Opinion is very divided. And there is a shocking sense in which lots of ordinary people, one hears this when it's being discussed, say, oh, well, all I want to know is when my time comes, hope somebody will give me a quick jab, this kind of silly stuff. And the thing you hear a lot, ridiculous, is, well, you can put an animal down, a cat or your favorite pet. Why? As if we were no more than animals. And these are cliches. This is silly, trite stuff. But I have to say, I've heard of this. This is the sort of drivel that you get when people have a microphone put in front of them, or even if it crops up at a meeting. Having said that, we had a meeting with our local member of Parliament at an early stage of this, and it was absolutely packed, overwhelmingly against this dreadful legislation. And he's a liberal Democrat, schooled in one sense to accept what you have described as sort of progressive legislation. He was passionately against it. So there is a great division. There are, of course, a number of excellent pro-life groups, and in the House of Lords, a number of members of that House who are active with such groups. So, for example, members of the Catholic Union have spoken out very clearly, and so on. Their lordships, however, were absolutely presented with something which, even if some people agreed with it, was a rotten piece of legislation. It simply hadn't tackled the issues of coercive pressure, the difficulty of deciding when somebody has only months to live, and any doctor will say these things are often very speculative. And so it's very difficult to suggest that the House of Lords did the wrong thing. I think they did the right thing in trying to accept debate on as many amendments as possible. I think it was absolutely right. But now you will hear people saying, oh, isn't it terrible the House of Lords has stopped this important legislation. That is not the case. They were doing their very best to do the right thing, to examine every possible angle through all the amendments that have been put forward.
How did the stalling happen? The reason why I ask is because throughout the history of the modern history of the House of Lords, it's very clear that they've typically leaned in favor of what one might consider progressivist legislation.
Yes, well, it's slightly complicated. In the case, for example, of soi-disant same-sex marriage, it was government legislation under the appalling legislation of poor David Cameron, the member, Prime Minister at the time, ghastly stuff. And if it's government legislation initiated by the government with a clear majority in the House of Commons, the House of Lords, under the law as it currently stands since the 1900s, cannot stop government legislation. The principle being that the House of Commons is the directly elected body, and the party that commands the majority in the House of Commons is clearly what the nation wants. So they couldn't stop that even if they'd wanted to. But yes, the legislation on abortion a great many years ago in the 1960s, David Steele's Abortion Act, yes, that could have been stopped in the House of Lords, and tragically it wasn't. So there's a technicality. And remember, the House of Lords is an unelected body and must defer to that extent legally under the Parliament Act. It now must defer to the House of Commons when it's a government measure. On a private member's bill, as this was, no, it is their absolute duty to go through. But remember, this wasn't just the left-right thing. A surprising number of people on what one might call the Labour benches or the left wing of the House of Lords were very, very concerned about many aspects of this, particularly as it relates to gravely disabled people and the coercion that can be placed, wittingly or unwittingly, on an elderly person who feels they are a burden, and so on. As it happens, the Anglican bishops currently, the senior bishops of the Church of England, at the moment sit in the House of Lords, and a mixed blessing, but they, on this occasion, have come out against this dreadful bill, so we can be pleased about that. But in general, the House of Lords has, I think, been seen in its proper light as a seriously useful body, delaying dangerous legislation. That is what it's for. There is a lot of pressure to get rid of the House of Lords, not from the right, even though, as you say, they've often pushed forward what you've described as sort of progressive legislation, but from the left, who think the whole idea of an upper house is wrong and so on. And the current Marxist drivel that we're fed a lot of the time, I can't bear the idea of their lordships anyway. The whole concept is anathema. I think, in this instance, the House of Lords has done absolutely the right thing. I am more worried about the general culture in our country. What was described so very well by beloved Pope Saint John Paul as a sort of death wish, a culture of death. There is this disgusting idea that suffering has no value whatever. You shouldn't even try to alleviate it really unless you can do it instantly. And yet everyone knows suicide to be wrong. Everyone knows it's a tragedy. And we have, tragically, quite a high rate of suicide now. Boys and girls reading on the internet about how miserable people are and everything, and they identify with this and they kill themselves. Awful. But if I can put something else that is important, there's a famous cliff overlooking the English Channel at Beachy Head, and there are posters there saying, please don't try and kill yourself, phone this number. And this is splendid. This has been put there, whether by public authority or private initiative, I'm not sure. I think a mix of the two. I think they're funding a group. Well, how lovely. But what are we meant to do? Put up a notice saying if you're really miserable, jump off.
Joanna, I'm so sorry the music is hitting, but thank you so very much for your time. My guest has been Joanna Bogle, journalist in the United Kingdom, and assisted suicide bill failed in the UK.